Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is your DJ Jimmy. And yes, if you guys have noticed, I did change my name from DJ Image to DJ Jimmy. And right now I'm going to explain to you guys why it is that I did that.
Pile and paper got them talking nice to me. Guess that's why the labels want the rights to me. CD on my back and it feel light to me. They think that I'm stunting, but it's slight to me. I don't understand it, how they got so timid. Told them I would do it and I overdid it. I don't do the bass cause I don't got the minutes. Pull up nothing teeny so they know who win it. Shorty cutting up it.
Okay guys, welcome back. Again, like I said, I'm going to explain to you guys why it is that I went from DJ Image to DJ Jimmy. But before I do that, let me explain to you guys how it all started, okay? So I'm gonna take you guys back to about 2000, 2001. So for me, it all started when I used to listen to the DJs on the radio back in 2000. I used to listen to these DJs on the radio out here in Arizona, while in Phoenix, Arizona. I used to listen to this radio station, 98.3, and a bunch of other radio stations, but that was probably the biggest one here. So if you guys are from Arizona, you guys know what I'm talking about. So with that being said, I used to listen to these DJs on the radio live mixing on Fridays and Saturday nights. And I used to really like drive me to like want to do something like that, where I was like, wow, that's cool. I used to hear him mixing and scratching, and I was like, man, I was like, that sounds awesome. And I used to really pay attention when they used to blend music together. Like I would know what song was coming up next. Everybody around me at the house was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I know what song is coming up next. They're like, okay, cool, like whatever. So that's kind of how it started for me. And I used to always tell myself like, wow, I want to do that one day. You know, I want to be that DJ on the radio. I could picture myself in a booth. I didn't know what it looked like, but I could picture myself in that radio station mixing for everybody at home listening. And then eventually, you know, later on being in a club DJing. That's kind of what I saw myself doing later on in life. But I just knew that it was going to revolve around DJing. That's all I knew. But what ended up turning out was I ended up purchasing my very first turntables. You know, that's kind of what I started out. You know, they were Numark. I forgot what they were. I think they were Numark TTXs. They were like digital, you know, kind of digital. At that time it was digital. It just had like a little digital monitor on it where it told you that, you know, the BPM and everything when you would speed it up, slow it down. It had a bunch of other functions on it as well. But that's kind of what I purchased probably about 2 years later after I was influenced by these DJs, you know, because I started working and eventually I bought my own two turntables. I think I spent about, I want to say like $2,000 on turntables, a mixer, and that was pretty much it. And I was kind of just practicing at home, mixing, you know, just kind of learning a little bit. But I kind of did it on my own. I didn't really have nobody to teach me. But I did run into a DJ around my neighborhood that went by the name of DJ Kool-Aid. I don't know if he's still DJing, but that's kind of who kind of influenced me to kind of want to continue to pursue this. But even him, he was doing a lot of stuff at home as far as I knew. So basically, guys, the DJing that I did basically revolved me being at home. I used to DJ sometimes for my uncles outside because I lived at my grandma's house with my uncles, you know, a bunch of my uncles, and they listened to a lot of music. So I would DJ for them outside on a Friday night, Saturday night. But you know, that was okay for me. I actually loved it. You know, they were like, well, you're getting down, you do this. And then eventually I would do a couple of events for like family members, but I would do it with like, honestly, like a little boombox that I had. Somehow I cut these wires to make them work to be able to fit into like a back of a house speaker. You know, that's kind of how I started. And then eventually, you know, I ended up purchasing these speakers from some DJ down the street, you know, that sold me some old JBL speakers that needed a big old huge heavy amplifier. But during all this time, guys, I never had a DJ name. People would kind of ask me, but not really, because again, I wasn't out at events. I wasn't trying to get paid for this. I was just doing it because I loved it. That's really how it started for me. So fast forward, guys, I ended up, you know, later on, you know, getting married, having kids, doing all that. When I was married, you know, for me, I actually had to step up. I felt, you know, I had to continue working, getting more hours, and that didn't revolve around me trying to pursue DJing, because for me, DJing at the time was an at-home thing, you know, practicing. It wasn't really money focused. Again, I didn't know anything about going out to clubs, seeing how much they pay, you know, and at this time too, guys, I was drinking, partying, doing what a lot of young people do, you know, trying to raise my kids at the same time, you know, trying to, you know, do the family thing. So again, guys, that's kind of what happened, you know. And long story short, guys, fast forward years later, me and my kid's mom ended up separating, and throughout that time, DJing kind of just kept getting pushed to the back burner. I would do a couple events for friends, but I never got paid for it because I just did it because I loved it, pretty much, you know. So again, guys, fast forward to about 2014, me and my kid's mom separated. But before that, guys, like long before that, a couple years before that, 2010, maybe 2011, I had already actually sold all my equipment because again, it wasn't making any money, and that wasn't really important to me, you know, trying to raise my kids and trying to figure out life was more important. And again, like I said, I was still trying to go out and do things with friends and all that mumbo jumbo, guys. Now fast forward to about 2019. I actually had my girlfriend that I had for about 4 years at the time. Now we have about 6. But at the time, I was working at the warehouse that I'm currently working at. I was trying to pick up more hours here and there, but there was times where they didn't have no hours, or they didn't even have my 40 hours. So I was like, okay, I gotta do something. Do I get a second job? What can I do? And I told myself, I was like, well, I don't want to go get a second job. I was like, what if I just do something on the side? I saw all these other businesses around me that were starting off, you know, food trucks and all these different things. And I was like, I want to do something like that. I don't want to depend on my job for overtime and all these different things, you know, always constantly depending on my job for money. And so I said, you know what? I want to do something. You know, I want to start a small business, or I don't know. You know, I just knew I wanted to do something, and that was going to revolve around something that I can manage. So me and my lady were constantly at that time in 2019, the beginning, we're thinking of different things that I could possibly do. We even thought about purchasing a food truck, you know, purchasing something else, you know, but something that revolved around the truck. A Kona ice truck out here, it's very hot in Arizona, so we were thinking of doing a Kona ice truck. Kona ice truck, if you guys don't know, they make pretty much snow cones, and you know, you add your own flavor to it. It seemed very simple, but it was very expensive to start. So I was kind of like, you know what? Well, first off, that does sound nice, but I don't see myself doing that. Like, it's not something that drives me. That's not something I'm passionate about. So as I was thinking of that, I'm like, what am I passionate about? Something that I would love to do. And somehow, some way, I don't know if I was watching videos or what it was, but that thought just hit me, as like DJing. I was like, DJing? I'm like, you used to be a DJ. And I think I started looking at videos of DJs, and I started noticing these DJs had like gig logs, and I was watching these gig logs, and one of the big influencers were like DJ Bar, DJ Rick Webb. Those are the 2 top ones that I used to watch a lot of before I decided to go into the business of mobilized DJing. So that's exactly what I did, guys. I decided by watching all these videos that I was gonna go into my own business of DJing and mobilized DJing. So I would take my lady to the Guitar Center. Again, she's not into none of that, but I would take her around, and she was like, okay, you know, let me see what, you know, what you're trying to do. Long story short, guys, I ended up purchasing my equipment. I first purchased my DDJ 1000, the one you guys see back there, and I didn't just purchase it offhand. I did a lot of research on it, like I told you guys before. I actually have a video on DJ controllers that I recommend personally. Again, they're my personal opinion. I recommended 3 DJ controllers that I would recommend for new beginning DJs. So if you guys want to watch that, please feel free to scroll through my channel and check out that video, okay? So anyways, like I was saying, you know, back to me purchasing all my equipment. So I purchased that thing. I also purchased some speakers, and it took time. You know, it took me about probably 3-4 months to save up for all this because it's not cheap. I purchased my speakers that I currently have right now, which are the Alto TS315s, 2 tops. I purchased one subwoofer, a 15-inch subwoofer by Alto, and I later on purchased this case that you guys see, but it took time, guys. But I started doing my event the minute I got my speakers, the minute I got my mixer, the minute I got a table. And the facade that I have, guys, is actually a homemade facade. I actually made that myself thanks to Rick Webb. I watched a video on how he made his facade the first time, so I decided to make my own. Now looking back, I should have just purchased one because they're cheaper and I didn't have to build it or I wouldn't have had to build it. So during all this time, guys, I never had a DJ name, well, until I decided to buy my equipment. And I remember thinking during that time, okay, what am I gonna go by? Because my lady asked me, so what's gonna be your business name? What's gonna be your DJ name? And I'm like,
I don't know.
And I actually had a bunch of different names, guys. One of the names being DJ Matrix. And if you're DJ Matrix, hey, nothing, I'm not saying anything bad about that name, but just for me, I wanted that name only because I used to love the movie The Matrix. But I ended up not going with that because to me, it just sounded kind of weird. I didn't feel it, like picture myself announcing DJ Matrix in the house. Hey, what's going on, guys? DJ Matrix. So that was actually gonna be my first name, my first DJ name. But I decided not to go with that. And I was trying to find something unique. I watched a bunch of videos on how to create my DJ name. So again, little by little, I ended up just saying, you know what, hey, let me try my name spelled backward. And I kind of looked it up on Google to see how you say it out, you know, and I actually found this website where you actually type in your name. So I typed in my name backwards and see how it says it out loud. And it actually sounded like DJ Image. And I was like, oh, cool, DJ Image. My name spelled backwards, unique, and it actually says something, you know, so I ended up going with that. But again, guys, as time went on, as I started my business and started putting that out there, I actually had these business cards too that had somebody create, which looked very awesome, which is the one you guys have seen the DJ Image logo and I loved it. So I'm like, well, you know what? It looks cool. It's creative. It's different. I'm going to go with it. But as time went on, guys, all the clients that I would get or potential clients that would call me, that was one of the big things that they would be confused about. They would call me and tell me, hey, is this DJ, how do you say your name? Constantly, hey, how do you say your name again? Hey, I'm calling, somebody recommended you. I just don't know how to say your name. I'm sorry. It was always that over and over. And, you know, a lot of people that I would meet in person, I would tell them, they go, hey, what's your DJ name, man? And I would tell you, it's DJ Image. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna search you up. And they'd walk away. I'm like, no, but hey, you know, and then I would give them my name. I would spell it out, you know, and they were like, oh, DJ, what is that? It was very confusing for a lot of people. And a lot of people would actually call me and tell me, hey, is this DJ Image? Do you speak English? I guess they thought I was from another country because, you know, YMMIJ, what is that? Like, you know, so they thought I was from another country. So it was very confusing, but I just continue to kind of stick with that because I was like, wow, that's my name. I'm going to stick with it. You know what? DJ Marshmallow or DJ, you know, Skrillex probably had a hard time as well. And you know what? They stuck with it and look where they're at now. And that's kind of the mentality that I had. What ended up happening was it was just confusing. And I told myself eventually I should probably change it. But I just continue to stick with it. But I did feel like I wanted to change it. I was just kind of like, well, I already have a website. I already have my social media accounts with that. And you know what? Let's just go with it. But fast forward till recently, which is about 2 weeks ago, I reached out to a local DJ business out here, and they reached back out to me and talked to me over the phone and told me that they were willing to sit down with me and discuss, you know, a little bit about me and a little bit about them. So we did, and we sat down. I sat down with one of the owners. He was very cool. One of the big things he asked me was the same thing I've heard all the time. He says, hey, how do you say your name? How do you say your DJ name? And I explained to him, you know, my name, DJ Image, is my name spelled backwards, yada, yada, yada. And he was kind of telling me, well, you know what? So that's going to be very confusing for a lot of the clients if you end up working for us, you know, later on. And he's like, I'll probably just tell the clients that your name is DJ Jimmy. He's like, because it's not as confusing. He's like, you know, you don't want to confuse the clients. You know, they're going to be like, wait, who's that? Does he speak English? And all these different things. Same things that I've gotten in the past. So I said, you know what? I've been wanting to change my name for the longest time. I actually wanted to go by DJ Jimmy. But I just thought, like, it just sounds plain. DJ Jimmy, there's like no thought behind that. And he told me, he's like, all my DJs go by their first name or their initials. And I remember checking out their website. A lot of their DJs use their own name. And I was like, wow, you know, back in the day, they didn't do that. You know, you had names like Unstoppable, Matrix, you know, DJ Fashion, you know, DJ this and that. And I was just kind of like, oh, wow. I was like, you're right. So that had me thinking, guys, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do it because I always wanted to go by my name because that's my name. And I love my name, you know, Jimmy. So I decided right there and then, guys, that I would go by DJ Jimmy, literally just like that. And I went to all my social media accounts and literally just started changing all of them. So obviously, guys, if you guys see the 22 on all my social media accounts at the end, that is because that is the year that I started to use that name, DJ Jimmy. So that stands for the year that I started using that. And also because, you know, DJ Jimmy has actually been taken by some other DJ that's probably out there that uses that same social media account as that name. So I couldn't just use DJ Jimmy. So yeah, so I ended up adding the 22 and it worked out the year that I started that name. So I said, hey, perfect. So again, guys, I know that was a lot of information, but I just felt that I needed to kind of put that out there to kind of let you guys know why it is that I changed my name. But I'm actually happy with it. I mean, I've always wanted to go by my name. There's no confusion. My name is Jimmy, DJ Jimmy. I love it. I don't have to explain why it is that I have my name like that. It's basically just my name. So that's all I got. And like always, I appreciate you guys watching this. And if you guys can, again, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. It would really help my channel out a lot. And with that being said, guys, that's all I got. Peace.